G'day cheeky dogs, my name's Margie and I'm an Australian currently living in America. Today's video is going to be a breakdown of Bluey Season 3 episode Magic. I'm super excited to bring you this updated version of all the Easter eggs and movie references and hidden details that maybe you might have missed when you watched this episode. If you're new to my channel, I love to do Bluey breakdowns as well as Bluey theories and one day eventually more animation content as well. But if you're interested in any of that, don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below as well as that bell for notifications so you know whenever I release a new video. With that being said, let's just jump straight into it with I think maybe one of the coolest references, and that is Star Wars. This episode is littered with Star Wars references in it, with the obvious ones being that the Force is magic in Bluey, the light side is the good side, the dark side is the cheeky side, and Force lightning is magic tickling as well. Also the idea that magic is for everyone, just like the Force is for everyone. And Chili very specifically says that magic, or the Force, that it is stronger in some than others, which is obviously a reference to the Force being strong in this one, or the Force being strong in that one. So yes, an epic Star Wars reference there. And also when Bluey says that she wants Bingo to join her magic to hers, it kind of reminded me of Force Bond as well, so I think that's another little Star Wars Easter egg. The next magic Easter eggs are the Harry Potter references as well, so we have quite a few of them too. The battle between Bluey and her mum, whilst also having some Star Wars vibes of, you know, the Force being good and bad, also has a lot of sort of Dumbledore versus Voldemort vibes, especially with the color scheme being green. Green, most famously in Harry Potter, is the evil or bad side, or the Voldemort side, Slytherin. You get what I'm saying here. So it turns a lot darker green and the storm sort of comes up when they are fighting, so it gives a lot of those vibes as well. But we do have some more Harry Potter references. We have the little dog castle with the little dog Dumbledore, as I like to call it, Dogwarts. We also see a picture of an owl, which is obviously a lot like Hedwig, as well as the lightning bolt, iconically Harry Potter. And the other picture as well, at first I thought was a platypus, but honestly I think it might be a reference to the Fantastic Beasts and the Niffler instead. Our third big movie reference is the Lord of the Rings. Again, you can see where I'm going with this. It's the whole good versus bad, light versus dark, and then this one, Gandalf versus Saruman. And the main one for this is that storm and the wind increasing during the battle is a lot like when Gandalf is facing the wraiths and the storm and the winds rise there as well. We also have a really cool Dragon Ball Z reference. So when Bingo is trying to use her magic, she does a lot of the iconic Dragon Ball Z animations. I also know that one of the lead background artists is a big fan of Dragon Ball Z, and he's done some really cool Bluey art in the Dragon Ball Z style. So I absolutely think that that's a reference there. Something that maybe you might not have noticed as well is the music at the very beginning of this episode is the Bluey theme song, but changed. Usually we hear it in like a harmonica style, but this time we hear it in that kind of like little Tinkerbell magic style instead, which is really cool. We have a lot of references to Australian sports. So at Lucky's house, we can see in the background a cricket bat as well as a football. When we get a close-up of that football as well, we can see a kangaroo on it. Kangaroos, of course, are from Australia. We also see a football in Bluey's yard as well, but not the touch rugby that we see in season 1. We, of course, do have a traditional Easter egg. So I could not find any long dogs in this episode, but I feel like there must be one. So if you know where it is and you can find it, let me know in that comment section down below.
This season as well, we've also had one new Easter egg, which is the hidden Chattermax, and we do have one in this episode as well. We can see Chattermax hiding behind the cactus plant in the living room.
We do have 5 of our tennis ball Easter eggs. We have one on the wall photo, we have one underneath the tape recorder, we also have one underneath the cabinet, we have one under the Whistler's mother painting, and we also have another one on a wall painting at the background. Speaking of photos and paintings, we have a lot of new photos in the Bluey house, so I wanted to make a special mention of all the new ones and all the extra little ones that we've seen so far. We can see a picture of Nana with the kids, as well as one of Rad surfing, which has come back up. It was down for a little while. We see Bandit as an archaeologist. We can also see the pier from Granddad's house and the one that we saw in the episode Granddad. We can see a new picture of the 3 brothers all together. We see a photo of Bingo's 3rd birthday, and we of course have a beautiful replica of the Whistler mother, or the dog version of this. This has been used a lot in pop culture. It's a famous American painting. It's popped up in The Simpsons as well, so of course it's popped up in Bluey too. We also have some continuity Easter eggs as well. We can see the hula hoops from the episode The Bus. We also see the bike from the episode Postman. We can see the Totoro cat. That was the cat stuck inside of Bandit's belly in hospitals. We also have another reference to Bandit's weight, which is just continuous this season, which reminds me a lot of The Simpsons and Family Guy, but I'm sure that they're going to refer to it. In this one, we have Lucky's dad saying that, you know, he weighs a ton. We also have some really funny dad jokes and lines between Bandit and Lucky's dad. So the first one, of course, is
Bingo, I think you need your racket restrung.
Racket restrung.
So that's just a really funny joke in general. But then we also hear Pat saying Christmas crackers.
Christmas crackers! You weigh a ton!
If you didn't know, Christmas crackers are a real thing in Australia. We've seen them in Bluey in the episode Christmas Swim. I also didn't realize that they didn't really exist outside of Australia / the UK, but in Australia they're a very iconic thing that we'd have every Christmas. We of course have lots of references to cheeky and cheekiness and being cheeky, which reminds me a lot from the episode Bad Mood, where Chili said to Bingo that she was being cheeky, not naughty. I of course love you cheeky dogs. So I love that we hear cheeky so much in this episode. Something else that you might have missed is a couple of scenes with new toys that we haven't really seen before. So we can see Polly Puppy. We also see a magic dog, which I think is a reference to Merlin. We see a pig with a bow tie, who I definitely think is Porky Pig. We see a fidget toy, which could be maybe a reference to Bluey having ADHD, but maybe just a reference to these days and fidget toys being super popular. We can also see a green dragon, which I think is Elliot from Pete's Dragon, and also a platypus with a hat on, which looks a lot like Perry the Platypus from Phineas and Ferb. And one of my favorite Easter eggs from this episode, of course, though, is the dirty dancing one.
It's not up to me! We did it!
It's so cool. We saw this in the trailer and I love it. I love that they managed to put this in there between as well, not even like a man and a woman, but between, of course, Bandit and Pat. I love their friendship so much and just how into doing everything they are together. It's so cool to see. But we see the iconic dance move of Bandit running up, jumping onto Pat and getting him up in the air, which we see the exact same scene in Dirty Dancing as well. Some little background details that maybe you might have missed is that the chimney has the bone back on it again. We also see bones on the cuckoo clock as well in the sitting room or living room, as you might say. But something interesting is that the clock there says 11:45 a.m., but the clock back downstairs still says 5:10, which is what we saw in the episode Unicourse. Visually, something just really cool to see, of course, was Bluey's transition from the light to the dark side and back to the light side again. So we see it with the coloring, and I've got to give a shout out to Ludo Studios. The coloring for the season is just so vibrant and really shows the mood of each episode so well. Because we see this one starting off with like kind of like semi-stormy weather and then getting really green and dark and stormy during Bluey becoming part of the dark side. And then of course when she comes back we see the storm clearing out and it's beautiful and light again. So that was a really cool animation detail to add in. Now something that the show does bring up is the idea of, is magic real in the Blueyverse? This is a hotly debated topic, especially on Reddit, and I do plan on doing a full in-depth theory video about this as well, so when I eventually do it, I'll put a link in. But we need to bring up the fact that at the very start, Bingo is trying to do magic, and Bluey tells her to pretend that she's doing magic with Bluey. So that's sort of our first kind of mark against the show. The second one as well is when Bingo tries to do the magic on Bandit and he's like, no, what's going on? It kind of reminded me of Featherwand as well. A similar situation happened there. So again, we can sort of see that maybe magic isn't real in this, but then there are multiple other parts in this where maybe the adults don't even see what's happening and yet they're magically moving around. So it's really hard to say, like, is magic real or not? And even Bandit at the end says that he wished he could do magic. So far, we've only ever seen the females in the show doing magic. So can only girl dogs do magic and see magic like Bingo seeing the fairy? It's definitely something for us to discuss in a later theory video for sure. For me though, this episode was a 4.75 out of 5 long dogs. Let me know down below what you would give it out of 5 long dogs. I really enjoyed it and I enjoyed the idea of just the parents needing to take a break sometimes. They can't always play with kids and you shouldn't try to make someone play with you when they don't want to. You should just have them play with you when they are ready to, and it's a much better experience that way. And I like that lesson in this episode as well. So if you liked this episode and this video, don't forget to hit that like button down below, as well as that subscribe button too if you haven't yet, as well as that bell for notifications so you know whenever I release any other Bluey content. But until then, I have picked out a few other videos that maybe you cheeky dogs might like, and I'll see you in another video. Mwah! Bye!